So welcome to the Sociology, Human Services, and Gerontology Summit. The purpose of this event is for you all really to learn from each other, network with each other, and also engage with professionals in the field of sociology, human services, and gerontology. So thank you all for participating for the icebreaker in the beginning. It's really cool seeing where students are and where they're going. And it's really, it's our job to kind of help you all kind of navigate through that, because education could be a really confusing maze sometimes, but we're here to support you along the way. Okay. So I'll just do a quick overview, and I'll hand it off to Claudia to go give an overview of the Coastline program. So we'll make sure to include some breaks in here as well. So in the next minute, for 15 minutes, Claudia will go over the overview of Coastline programs. I will be facilitating a career insight panel. So unfortunately, Cynthia Montero has also had a family emergency, and that is Sasha's sibling. So we'll have Ian Klinger from AIDS Project LA Health, and we have Dr. Melanie Horn-Mellers from CSUF Aging Studies that will cover the gerontology. We'll add in some breaks in here, and then at the end, we're going to have Stephanie Cowley from Silverado, who's going to give you all employment opportunities as well to get that experience ahead of time. We have the wonderful Helen Ward, and she's here somewhere. Oh, there she is, the wonderful Helen Ward, and myself I'll be talking about the Career Center, and Helen will talk about the Transfer Center. And again, feel free to use the chat for engagement. If there's any like aha moments for you, feel free to use the chat. So at this point, I'm gonna hand it off to Claudia to give an overview of Coastline programs.
Yeah, okay. So we're covering the helping professions today. There's a lot of different ways in which we can work directly to help people, right? And at Coastline, we have a lot of different majors, but the summit today specifically focusing on what we can do with gerontology, human services, and sociology. So at Coastline, gerontology is available as an Associate of Arts degree. Human Services has two options. You can either choose the Associate of Arts track, which is the first formal degree in the lines of the different degrees that folks can receive, or a certificate. One of the things that I see happening a lot is that folks really want to work for employability purposes first. So it is common that someone would choose to work on the certificate aspects, and that would include just the courses specifically related to that major of human services, which in this case, it's a lot of like the clinical and case management courses. And then, once they have that part set, that certification done, then they'll move into finishing the rest of the like the general education component so they can achieve the Associate of Arts degree or transfer if that's what someone is working towards. And then in sociology, we have the Sociology Associate of Arts degree with transfer built into it. So this is the most preparation. The degrees that you see with the T at the end of it, this is really like the most preparation that a student can have if they're trying to move into a major at a local four-year institution. And with Coastline, local can be a lot of things, right? Because we're virtual, we're everywhere. And then we have the Sociology AA, which is not necessarily designed to transfer, but may be used that way. One of the interesting things that I want to share here is that in many cases, there tends to be a lot of crossover between these different degrees. So it is possible that you can end up with more than one of these. Maybe you know that you love human services, but you already know in your mind that you want to focus on older populations. So gerontology may be an appropriate companion to your human services degree. Maybe you're going into sociology and you also know that you want to work with older populations. So we can always look at pairing gerontology with your sociology degree as well. And then the interesting thing is that like some of the popular campuses, well, I'll talk about one of them. So human services as a major is a massive major at Cal State Fullerton. Right now, it's still only in person, but that particular major there, it has 3 degrees that can be used to transfer into it. You can be either a psychology major, so long as you're following the AAT track. You can be sociology, so long as you're following the AAT track. Or you can be a human services major applying within human services. And one of the reasons for that is because this major is so massive, it has a lot of different concentrations with it, making it one of those transfer majors where, you have more than one option as preparation into it. And if this sounds confusing to you right now, it's okay if it does. It's one of the reasons why we encourage you to meet with your counselors, because I know that folks are really good at being able to interpret the information in a catalog, but sometimes we can offer, additional tidbits that may help you be a more competitive applicant for transfer. So, I keep saying the big hearts do lead to big opportunities within human services, within clinical mental health counseling, within social work, and even criminal justice. So let me share some information about these things, right? So within human services, professionals in this area are really good at channeling their compassion and their empathy and working in roles where they're providing some sort of case management, or direct services to people. People in these majors, we can see them in different roles, such as, they could be doing casework with a variety of different types of agencies. Maybe they are coordinating services within a group home. Maybe they are program directors or juvenile court liaisons. Even counselors and professors with advanced degree can start off with human services. Then moving down the line, so clinical mental health counseling. Let me see, I have some stats. So I was able to pull some information from NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And according to their stats, more than 43 American adults deal with mental illness each year. So such issues that come up would be things related to addiction challenges, childhood trauma, dementia in aging populations, and a lot of other factors that derive a need for licensed professionals to provide direct care to these populations. According to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, which is one of Paulo's close friends, the BLS, they project that over the next 3.5 years, we're going to see a 23% increase in the demand for these jobs. And I think I had the stats, yeah. So even in human services, so within human service fields, for folks with human services degrees, the BLS projects an 18% continued growth over the next 3 years for those careers as well. So in social work, the folks that go into this area, usually individuals who want to, help individuals that are moving through challenges in their life. And the area of social work is really vast, right? We have social workers in schools. We now have social workers in colleges. We have social workers with government agencies. We have social workers in hospitals. There is such a track as medical social work as well. People that help coordinate services for children that are being born are being, becoming part of an adoption procedures, helping folks transfer to continued care facilities after a major health incident in their lives. So there's all these different areas that maybe we're not always thinking about. There's also clinical social workers. So in the state of California, if you do decide to become a social worker, you can apply later on to be a licensed clinical social worker. It's an additional licensing that requires additional training, but this allows you to set up, and provide therapy, provide your own services to folks. And according to growth projected for this area, also by the Bureau of Labor and Stats, is a 15% projected growth over the next 3 years. Now, I'm adding criminal justice in here because there's this really interesting thing that happens with it. So in this area of criminal justice, we also need social workers. We also need mental health workers in those areas. And one of the interesting things is that if you decide to have a major here at Coastline that's in any of these areas, but let's say you decide that you want to transfer and pursue criminal justice as your major, you only need one course to make that happen. And the class is the Intro to Criminal Justice, which you can take at Golden West at our sister campus. It's CJG 140. Cal State Fullerton and a lot of the other campuses only require that one course as preparation for that major. So if this is something if you're thinking about a helping profession that includes working with folks that are currently incarcerated, or even being a victim rights activist, somebody who's working directly with, local police departments, local law enforcement, then, this is another area that you can look at, because a lot of folks, they don't always think about, working in the helping professions within criminal justice as well. Any questions so far?
Yes, one question, Claudia. Gretchen on the chat says, for someone who will have a human services associates after this term, what is the best logical step for a human services bachelor's if you work full time and can't always be on campus? Ooh, good question.
Ooh, so I'm glad you said something about that. Let me see. I think I have it coming up, Gretchen. So let me see. Oh yeah, I do. Okay, so let me hold off on that real quick, because I have that coming in like 2 slides down. And then if it still doesn't speak directly to your question, let me know and I can come in with additional details. But one of the things that I want you to take away from this is that, like, I always love it when students are looking at our catalog to see what interests them, right? But the thing with meeting with your counselors is that we can actually devise like a tailored plan that works for your specific interests. So maybe you're someone that wants to do, you want to major in sociology, but you like the case management approach to human services. So we'll pair some of those courses to make that work for you. Maybe you have a job right now and it's requiring you to take some specific courses so that you can advance in those areas. We can help you out with that as well by making sure that those courses come up first in the list of what you have to take. So keep in mind that your degrees are stackable, right? You can have one option like transfer or an associate's degree, but there may be other certificates there that can work for you as well. Or you may be able to do like double majors, and we can help you plan for that as well. For example, a lot of folks don't know, but there's actually, if you decide that you like sociology and psychology, there is a 2-course difference. So a difference of only 2 courses if you decide to pair the Sociology Associate of Arts for transfer with the Psychology Associate of Arts for transfer. So if you take 2 extra courses, you end up with 2 degrees. And usually we can throw in a 3rd one in social and behavioral sciences, because all of those line up together. So this is just one way that you can show what you've earned with your time here. We also know that for a lot of folks, you're not only coming in because you want to advance your education, but you're looking for immediate employability opportunities. And if that's something that you're looking for, then we do want to hear about that, because, all of us have been there. I think that most of the folks that work here at community colleges, we did it the same way that many of you may be doing it, where we worked a lot and we went to school and we tried to find that balance, right? So if that's what you're trying to do to create different opportunities for yourself, then, please let us know and we'll help you work with that as well. Anything you want to add to that part, Paulo?
Yeah, on the chat, actually, I added a link to CSU Online for the social and behavioral sciences part. I would recommend taking a look at that, because there's really cool concentrations that you might be interested in. It may not be directly human services, but it's in that area. And like what Claudia mentioned, we will help you find those right programs that fit best. And Helen Ward, thank you, Mrs. Ward, for contributing as well. She's going to be our transfer center specialist. She'll be giving more information about the transfer center later as well.
Yay, Helen. I'm going to ask you about this next one too. Okay, so before I move into the next one, I'm going to take a moment to virtually hug it out. So most of us who are in this space right here would agree with this quote. It is one of the most beautiful compensations of this life, that you cannot sincerely try to help another without helping yourself. That's a part of it. Sometimes people will ask me what I like about what I do. And it's not all about how good this work makes me feel, because, some days are tough, but really there is. There's that aspect there. Graduation days, I have been to a lot of graduations. I've been in this for 17 years now, and I still get super excited about every graduation. I love getting to that point where I see our students celebrating with their families their accomplishments here. I always think about my students and their own stories, all the challenges that they had to move through to get to the point where they're walking across the stage on that day. So, it is something that has to be hard work, right? Because as satisfying as it is, it is also very challenging work sometimes. So transfer opportunities. So at Cal State University Fullerton, they have an online sociology program. And this kind of goes back to that question we had just a little bit ago. The reason why I'm putting this one up there first is that right now, Cal State Fullerton, which is one of our local campuses, they don't have an online human services program, but human services, you can also transfer into this online sociology program that they have. It is based on a cohort model, which means that when you start the program, you're going to start with a group and you're all going to move through courses together. And the way the program is set up right now is that students take 3 courses each session, and this is over a period of 3 years. So it is a very prescribed model, but because of the way that they've created it, they actually have a really high rate of completion for that program. They have high success rates for it. And Helen will be able to talk more about that later, because I know that she helps out a lot of our students when they're interested in this program. Like I said earlier, Human Services as a program at Cal State Fullerton is a massive program, and any of the 3 majors listed there, psychology, sociology, or human services, would work if you're looking to transfer into that major. Another one worth mentioning too is Cal State University Long Beach. They have a social work program where you earn a bachelor's in social work. One of the great things about that program is if you are interested in becoming a social worker, your earning potential is much higher if you have your master's degree. So some counties will hire you with a bachelor's degree in social work, but the majority of the counties do have a preference for a master's in social work. And with this program at Long Beach, if you decide to do your master's in social work there, and you do that bachelor's in social work, they will give you 1 year of credit towards their 3-year master's program, which makes it a really cool program to consider. And it is a highly competitive and highly selective program to apply to. And this other one that I want to talk about that not a lot of folks bring up is that the University of California, Irvine, so UCI, has kind of their own spin on human services. It's called psychological sciences, which is kind of, it's a merger of like psychology, sociology, human services, and even some criminal justice courses within this major. And actually the requirements for this psychological sciences major, they align very closely to either like sociology or psychology, but I would say closer to the psych major. But this, if you haven't looked into this major, it's worth taking a look. It is kind of a popular option. And my only advice is don't confuse it with psychology, because psychology at UCI looks very different from this major there. So then if we look at private campuses, so a popular option for students that want human services as a bachelor's degree is Southern New Hampshire University, SNHU. And one of the reasons for that is that they offer this program as 100% online, but it also makes them a popular option that out of, now, I can't say all, but I've checked a lot of programs to see what their tuition is, and they have one of the lowest tuition rates for this major at a private institution. So these are just some campuses that you can take a look at, and then I'm sure that when Helen comes in, she'll be able to add. I just picked out kind of what I see as the most popular options that our students are looking at here at Coastline. And then how to get to your there, whatever your there looks like. I work with EOPS, so it's kind of built into our program that students meet with their counselors 3 times per semester. I know sometimes our students think that's a little much, but there's always stuff to discuss, right? Even if you're not part of a special program here at Coastline, I urge you to make a connection with one of the counselors. If you've met with one, I have students tell me, yeah, I met with a counselor and I don't know. I wasn't really sure about that experience. Try another one. Like I tell students that like you need to try us because it's like a chocolate chip cookie recipe. There's tons of them out there, right? But it's a matter of which one you like best. They all make a chocolate chip cookie, but they're all going to give you a different way of getting to that end product. And that's kind of what selecting your counselor is like. We have different vibes, different flavors for different styles. Find your person and then stick to them. Sometimes you may have to try a few before you land on one that you really connect with. But do that because, like I'm sharing with you today, there's more to that meeting than just getting what courses are going to work for you, right? We want to connect you with programs and And we're really trying to help you, build a pathway that's going to get you the things that you're trying to. I like to joke with students that once you make a collection with a counselor and you're going in there, you're going to feel like this is a Nordstrom experience, right? You're going to get it catered to the way you want it, and you're going to find that you're going to be very well supported. So get in here and get your Nordstrom experience in our counseling department. And then, so we always see, I always have these experiences when students come in and they haven't seen a counselor in a while, and then I see that they've totally gone off-roading. So they have an ed plan, but they haven't followed it. And that's okay, right? We all like to go off-roading a little bit once in a while, but you want to check back in. Like if you've done something that's not on your plan, you've changed your major, like don't assume you can still follow what's been laid out, right? Because it sounds like to me like the conversation has changed. Check back in and get some advice, make some updates to your major so that you don't end up in your last semester here. And when you petition for your degree, you find out that you're missing something. That's like the worst case scenario to come across, not just for you, but for us too. Like we feel really bad when that happens. Visit Paulo. Paulo is really good. He's a very good resource person, especially if you're trying to research what's out there. But one of the things that I recommend a lot to students, like especially when they're really struggling with deciding on the major here, is I have them visit Indeed.com. And one of the reasons I do that is like I ask them to plug in their like careers that they have thought about that they may possibly like. And the reason why I ask them to do that is because I want them to go back in and see like what the income is for those careers. I want them to see what the preparation looks like for those careers. And just like to see where these careers are located and whether or not they have the option to work remotely if that's something that they want to do now. We have seen in the last few years that a lot of things that were not previously available as remote options now are, and that's become a factor of importance for a lot of people. Set up a LinkedIn account and start making connections with companies whose work you're interested in. Link up with people who have titles that you think one day you would like and see how they did it. And then also try to find some professional organizations that you can connect with because they have conferences and they usually have special rates that are reduced for students. And if you ever want to go to one of those and you can't afford the cost of the conference, you can apply at Coastline for a grant to help you pay for that cost. And I think, okay, if you want to take a picture of that, I'm more than happy to take any questions that you may have. I do work with, go ahead, Paulo, question?
Yeah, Claudia, we're actually on the career panel time already, but go ahead.
Oh, okay, this is it. This is my last one. I'm sorry. I talk a lot, as you can tell. So you can contact me, but I do work with EOPS, which is a special program. If I can't meet with you directly, then I'm going to make sure that I connect you with the best possible person within our general counseling department. And I also have their phone number and contact information there for you.
All right. So as you are on your way back, I would like to introduce one of our deans is actually here. Dr. Tom Neal is actually here. I don't know if Dean Neal, if you'd like to say hi to the group.
Well, hello, everybody, and congratulations on joining tonight. Hopefully you're going to learn quite a bit from this esteemed group. I hope you find that these folks who are talking to you are great resources for you. So please do search them out for advice and career paths and transfer paths and counseling information. I don't know if Dr. Varquez told you before, but the department chair, Sasha Montero, had a family emergency and can't be here tonight. And I'm certain she would have loved to have been here to have given you her sage advice as well. So keep asking, keep growing, and I'm very happy to be here. So if you need me, the good folks can send you my contact information. All right. Have a great evening and learn much. And please ask.
Yeah. Thanks, Dean Neal. Yeah, definitely use the chat for any interactions, questions, and we'll try to get those in as well. All right. So for this section of the summit, so we have I have Ian Klinger, who actually majored in sociology, and he works for the AIDS Project, LA Health. He'll talk more about himself. And we have Dr. Melanie Hornmullers, who representing Gerontology, and she's working for the Cassie Fullerton Aging Studies. We had another person that was representing human services. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to make it for today. So, but that's okay. So let's go ahead and get started. So first, let's start with Ian. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about your academic background, current position, and describe your major responsibilities.
Sure. So thank you so much, Paulo. I like you said, my name's Ian Klinger. I received an AA in sociology from Golden West College, so a member of the community Coastline Community College District some years ago. So I was in a similar position as all of you some years ago. After I got my AA in sociology, I transferred from Golden West College to California State University, Dominguez Hills, and earned a BA in sociology there. And then I continued at Dominguez Hills to earn my master's in arts and sociology from California State University, Dominguez Hills. Currently, I am a study coordinator at APLA Health, which is located in Baldwin Hills in Los Angeles. And as far as what are my major responsibilities, well, in a nutshell, I'm responsible for making research studies function. There are principal investigators who are my employers who wrote research grants that got funded generally by the NIH, which is also known as the National Institutes of Health. They then hired me and my coworkers to conduct the research studies. So basically what I actually do is I enroll participants in the studies, like I conduct interviews with them and surveys, as well as help them join our intervention group sessions. I work on data management as well. And pretty much what I do is I'm like a middleman between our research participants and the study investigators who wrote the studies. And I try to make both sides happy, which unfortunately isn't always possible, but we try to do our best. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Ian.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Mahlers, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yes, hi, everybody. I'm Melanie. I'm a college professor at Cal State University Fullerton, and I'm officially housed in a department called Human Services, which is like applied psychology, not human resources, as you all know, but I want to make sure we know it's the same. And I spend half of my life in human services working with our undergrad students, and then my other half of my life on campus in the aging studies program. I'm the product of a community college professor. He taught for 50 years at Pierce Community College in San Fernando Valley. I got my undergraduate degree at UCLA in psychology, and then my master's and my doctorate at University of Arizona in family studies and human development. And I define myself as a lifespan developmental researcher because I study how stress impacts us across the lifespan, with particular focus on how early parent-childhood relationships impacts how we age and cope with stress later in life. My main responsibilities as a tenured faculty is primarily obviously teaching both undergrad and graduate courses, doing service on campus and in the community. One of the projects that I lead is not specific to aging studies, actually, but it's a Head Start program where we teach parents, children how to build strong coping strategies and decrease stress and build resilience. We do that through, well, it's a whole intervention mechanism we lead, but I'm very proud of it. And then the other side of my research world is I study older adults and how they utilize health technology to support their healthcare. And then mentoring students. I'm trying to think what else I do.
Yeah, Dr. Mahlers does a lot. One thing you'll notice for like sociology, gerontology, and human services, it's a lot of people go in so many different directions, and it's not linear. So I actually myself, my undergraduate was actually in sociology as well, but my first major was computer engineering. It's like, who would have thought? So it's like you just never know where people are gonna go towards, right? Okay. So the next question to Ian is, what made you choose your field?
Sure. And I just wanted to say real quick, my first major was actually electrical engineering. So
Wow.
interesting how that can change, right? So what made you choose your field? I'm always curious about learning more about people and why they do the things that they do. Just learning new things has always been exciting to me, and I wanted a career in which I could have the potential to help people better their lives. I feel lucky because this job allows me to do both. And basically, I learn about people, their lives, and how they think about things, including people who have different life experiences than my own. And then I also get to help them build better coping skills and friendship skills with others in their community. That's something that we do in our research studies, as we try to create a community within the people that we work with. So, yeah.
Awesome. And how about yourself, Dr. Mullers? What made you choose your field?
Similar to Ian, I wanted to be, I'm a natural helper. I do not have a background in engineering or anything like that. I've always been very social sciences. I started off in college as a philosophy major, and then I switched to psychology, and then I went to sociology. My dad was a sociologist. He studied the Japanese internment camps. And then I decided I thought maybe I'd want to be pre-med, but realized I don't like the hard sciences. Went back to psychology and flip-flopped around for a while, but I landed on psychology and realized I thought about becoming a clinician and doing therapy, but realized I don't have the patience for that, or at least I didn't then. Perhaps I do now. My real draw is to problem solve. I'm so fascinated about what people think and how they feel and why they react to life the way they do. But perhaps because of my own childhood experiences dealing with trauma and feeling lost and not knowing how to cope with stress, I really turned towards school and theory and books to figure out what are the best practices, what can we do to help support children and help support families. And I wanted to go into a field where there really was an opportunity to, like Ian was saying, build community, but within a diversity lens. That is probably one of my biggest values growing up with a father who, I mean, literally, we would sit like at the bus stop for hours and talk about where we think people were going and what their lives were like. And I wanted to be in a position to learn always for the rest of my life, while always being able to bring my authentic self to what I'm doing. And being a professor allows me to do that.
Yeah.
That was probably a long answer to a short question.
No, that's good. And actually, back to you, Dr. Muller. What is the most rewarding and challenging part of your job?
How much time do we have? Working with the students is the most rewarding. I love our human services students. I love our gerontology students. They are the most passionate, most committed, most in tune people I've ever met. The hardest part is working with that exact group of students because they wear their hearts on their sleeves. They are learning to do self-care. They're learning how to establish healthy boundaries. They're in the field because they care so much, but they're in their field because they've also experienced tremendous hardship. And knowing I have to maintain my own boundaries. I'm not their mom. I cannot be their care provider. I can't be their therapist. But during COVID, for example, students who were sitting, in the parking lot at McDonald's to get Wi-Fi because they can't afford it otherwise, or they live in their cars. And we know that the CSU's food and housing insecurity is a major problem. So that's really hard for me personally. And realizing, I guess, also that I really speak the truth, I hope, to my students, and letting them know, especially given this political climate, I know what my limitations are. I realize my skin color, and I realize I'm an educated person. I've been afforded tremendous opportunities. I don't want that to be a barrier for connecting to my students. So I work really hard to let them know I'm here to listen, and I'm here to reflect back to them their strengths. But it definitely is it's a challenging time, as we know. I want students to feel safe. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges is students may not feel safe with everybody, or the times in general are just so precarious. There's tension. So that I definitely went off on a tangent. I think you understood what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. And how about for yourself, Ian?
Yeah, so the most rewarding thing I would say is just helping people who are participants in our research study, like live better lives and discover things about themselves. Sometimes just by taking the surveys and going through the questions, they like, yeah, I think I really need to go in and get a dentist appointment or something. So that's really rewarding. It's been really touching having participants who reach out to us and tell us that after our group sessions that they really helped them give a sense of community and help them through difficult times in their lives. So that's really neat whenever people have reached out to us about that. Another thing is just collecting just information about our participants that can then be used to show whether our group sessions work or not. Use that to improve them, and then potentially if our intervention does work, it could be used in community organizations around the country to help more people. So that is a really neat thought that could help a lot of people in the future. As far as what the most challenging part is, it's also the people, because while there's some people who are extremely amazing and they really are interested and enthusiastic about our study, we'll have people who have asked me, when are you going to get the results? And it's like, well, you're participant number 100 and we have to get through 300 people, and after the 300 person, it's another year until we have the results. So it's several years out. But yeah, there are people too who aren't as enthusiastic, and you can tell they just kind of want the compensation, or they just miss appointments over and over again. So we care about all of our participants, but after missing 6 appointments, it can get pretty difficult. Another thing is just trying to be the middleman between the participants. We're like, can we have a little bit more money, or we should get compensated more, and then we have to go to the study investigators. So it's just being that middle person that's also a little challenging.
Got it. So sounds like for you, Ian, the most rewarding and challenging can also be the people as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you're there's folks in the chat leaving comments. Yeah, feel free to use the chat if you have any aha moments or how many questions you have. Cool. So next question, this is for Dr. Mahler. Knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently to better prepare for your current role?
Not be so hard on myself. Not think that I have to be perfect. Know that more of my identity comes from the learning and the connections I make with people than the actual grades I was getting. Trying to practice more mindfulness, which is something I do now and part of the resilience program we do. Be more grounded, manage my stress earlier on, I think is the take home. My anxiety and risk for depression really hindered my ability to enjoy so much of my life. And I've turned 50 and I realize I would be exactly where I'm supposed to be, and I could have enjoyed it a little bit more. I guess 2 other really quick things for students: please get to know your faculty, get to know your career counselors, get to know Paulo. These are the people that you go back to in years to say, hey, I don't know if you remember me, and I took your class and we talked about, whatever in office hours. These are the people who will help you find jobs. Make yourself a face. Don't just be, a number, as they say, but go and connect with people. Take advantage of all the opportunities that are around you on a campus, because it's not just about the actual class content. It's the community you're exposing yourself to. And I think the other thing that I did do well, and I'll just reiterate to make sure if you haven't, is step outside your comfort zone. Do things that are unfamiliar. Get to know people you wouldn't normally get to know. Travel. Go eat foods that you wouldn't normally eat. Expose yourself to a mindset that you want to typically have put yourself through or expose yourself to. Sorry, my son just walked in. That's a lot.
No, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the stress management and also
Yeah.
the perfectionism. I think a lot of students definitely feel that
Yes.
way. You don't need a 4.0. Of course, it would, help you for GPA, but life experience is also really important. Relevant experience is also really important. So, like trying those new things, as Dr. Muller says, is really, really important. And you have people here. You have myself. You have Helen Ward and Claudia Mojica, who's going to be here supporting you. Or let's say you go to Cal State Fullerton, now you have a connection there as well.
Yes.
So definitely these on the event page, I actually added people's LinkedIn. So to really encourage networking, because at the end of the day, it's connections is really the key to really accelerate your progress down the line. Okay. And how about for you, Ian? What would you have done differently?
Yeah. So I think I'm pretty fortunate in that my mentors prepared me pretty well. I got some really good opportunity working at a lab whenever I was a student, and my professors and mentors, have always helped me a lot. I know there are a few things that would have helped. Like some of the appointments can last really long, and you really have to be comfortable talking to people over the phone, because our appointments can last like 2 hours or so, and they're with people you don't really know very well. So just, getting more experience with that. And then also for my job, I work with Microsoft Excel a lot. I remember the first time I saw the spreadsheet with all these hundreds of participants, and each of them have dozens of fields on multiple tabs. It was a little bit overwhelming. So maybe a little bit more, being a little more prepared with Microsoft Excel. I know a lot of jobs do use Excel. So, I would suggest everyone maybe look into that a little bit if you're thinking of dealing with, managing people and times and different things like that. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely keeping up with technology is also a big one. And thank God for YouTube University if you don't want to do a 16-week course for typing in Microsoft, right? But yeah, and a lot of us have those resources on campus. Like we could connect you with the right person or resource to make sure that you do get those training. Thank you for sharing. Okay. So next question to you, Ian, is in terms of like internships and volunteering and other relevant experience, how has that helped you in your journey?
Yeah, so I volunteer. I was a soccer referee for a number of years whenever I was younger. I think back at that because that helped me deal with people who weren't always the happiest with me. So whenever you get experience trying to manage negative, uh, uh, communication with other people, that can help whenever you run up against a conflict with anyone or whatnot. So yeah, just learning how to deal with people who aren't necessarily friendly. Like, for example, I'll call someone up and they'll be like, "Who are you? What do you want?" And they think I'm a telemarketer or something, and they're like, "Leave me alone." It's like, wait a second, somebody talked to you and said you might have been interested in a research study. So just stuff like that. Also, like Dr. Mahler's, I think that was your name, if I said it right, said that working with professors is extremely important, I would say. I can't tell you how helpful my mentors have been for me. Peter Aguilera, who's actually a professor here, he was one of my professors and really did help me. So just I can't describe how important that reaching out to your professors are. They can help you with different things that you may not be able to understand now, but they definitely open up opportunities for professional and personal growth. Like I said, I wouldn't have been here at this panel without him suggesting me. And then, yeah, working with students on campus in the research lab really helped me. Just learn how to talk to people and whatnot. So I would just say, yeah, reach out to other people on campus and try to get to know them. If you have a professor that you really, really like their class, definitely talk to them, because they have spent years studying the subjects that they study, and having students that are also interested in it is, something that they really love and enjoy. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And your professors also down the line, if you ever want to go to graduate school, you're gonna need letter of recommendations. So it's good to know your professors ahead of time, rather than you just know a professor in 1 month and you ask them for a letter of rec. So start thinking about those kinds of things or even references. So think ahead, and that is going to help you down the line. And how about for you, Dr. Mullers? How has those as internships, volunteering, and relevant experience helped you in your journey?
I tried to, Sean's laughing at me. I think he's starting to get a sense of my personality. I try to suck the marrow out of life of everything. I feel like every opportunity, there's something to learn. I did a ton of internships when I was in college. I worked for the Neuropsychiatric Institute with children with autism. I did a stint with in hospice care, which is for terminally ill patients. I worked in grad school. I did volunteer work working with a group home for at-risk youth, specifically female offenders. I worked as a layperson for the fire, for fire departments at University of Arizona, as like their liaison between public health information and community programming. I developed sex health programs. I mean, I dabbled in everything because I wanted to understand how it all worked together. Yeah. The best part of all that was I realized I don't want to ever work with teenagers. I don't want to do clinical work. But I realized I wouldn't have realized that unless I tried all these different things. And I realized from all those experiences, I wanted to be an educator. I wanted to develop programs. I wanted to write grants. I wanted to problem solve. I wanted to be a collaborator. I'm not someone who wants to sit for 10 hours a day analyzing data like I had to do for my dissertation. That made me miserable. But I also realized had I not learned that, I wouldn't have an appreciation for research. So it's just an opportunity to learn to see how other people work, what other people's leadership styles are, what your leadership style may or may not be, what my triggers are when working with people. Yeah. What are my patterns when I engage with people? Why do I tend to always feel a certain way? What are my biases that I'm not paying attention to? All of that. So I have students who say that the best thing about internships is in our program in human services, you have to do 3 120-hour internships to graduate, or internship hours. The best thing is that they rule out what they don't want to do, because most of us don't know what we want, but we can start to chisel out what, again, we don't want. And things to consider. Do I want to work as a collaborator? Do I want to work individually? Do I want to work on the weekends? Do I want to work 9 to 5? Do I want to be indoors? Do I want to be outdoors? All those are really important, critical components to figure out what you want to do for a career. That's what makes a life. So those internships and volunteer experiences help you to kind of start focusing in on some of those variables.
Yeah. So learning what you like and what you don't like is really important, because sometimes you have an idea like, oh, I want to work with this population because you see it on TV or Netflix. Then you get in there, you're like, yeah, this is enough. And that's a good thing. You'd be like, oh, I don't want to do that. And you're one step closer to finding the population you want to work for.
Yeah. Or you inherit what your parents tell you need to be. So I need to become a nurse because generationally, familially, that's what our family does. Well, have you ever worked in a nursing facility? Have you ever cleaned up pee? Have you ever, changed gauze? No, I don't like that. Well, then you're not going to like being a nurse, because I think the mindset of many youth today, not necessarily this generation, but like the 18-year-olds, they're going to graduate high school, go to college, and come out being like the CEO of a company. And that's not how it works, right? So doing the dirty work also is really important. You get some of that experience in your internships and volunteer work.
Thank you, Dr. Mullers and Ian, for joining us today. Round of applause from all the students in this room. And I'm going to hand it off to Stephanie.
Okay. Hi, I'm so excited to be talking with you guys. I'm a lifelong student. I swear I've been in college for 30 years at this point. But I'm really excited to be talking with you guys about opportunities within Silverado, and then also, potentially even outside of Silverado that involve your major. So I'm Stephanie Callie. I am a regional nurse within Silverado. Silverado is a memory care community. We also specialize in hospice. So our locations are spread out throughout the nation. We're in about 10 states. And even throughout COVID, we were continuing to grow, which was very exciting. We all know how COVID impacted all of our lives. And then, like I said, we also have hospice, which is end of life care. All of our senior living communities are memory care. So every single one of our residents throughout our communities have some sort of cognitive impairment. Right now, there's about 1 in 10 Americans over 65 will have some form of cognitive impairment. And those of you on this Zoom, your career path and degree is really going to be impacted by cognitive impairment. Those studying gerontology, the chances of them developing a cognitive impairment after someone reaches 65, 70, 90, et cetera, increases. And so you will have those interactions with someone who has dementia. A few things about Silverado. We have a very, in my personal opinion, unique operating philosophy that is love is greater than fear. I can't really think of many companies that have love in their operating philosophy, but that is really how we create and make decisions that allow us to give life to our residents, our patients, associates, and their families. Cognitive impairment is a disease that impacts not just the patient, but their loved ones, your neighbors, the clinicians that they work with. So has a very rippling effect throughout the community. Specifically within Silverado, some of the job positions that we have that would apply to your guys' major. We have caregivers. A lot of people will work as a caregiver to get that experience with gerontology, right? Especially if you're someone who is interested in pursuing something that involves cognitive impairment. It provides you an understanding and a depth to your future career. We also employ LVNs and RNs. We have social workers, master level social workers within each of our communities to help not just our residents adjust to their disease and the progression of the disease, but also their families. It's a disease that people begin grieving long before their loved one has passed away. It kind of takes away a little bit of their personality, a little bit of their independence, almost every day. And so our social workers are a key part of how we provide support to their residents as they progress, as well as the families as their loved ones progress too. We have sociology and gerontology and human services majors that work in our engagements departments. So our engagements department is responsible for providing, active, meaningful engagements for our residents. We try to not just keep our residents busy. We want to keep them active in purposeful and meaningful engagements. So, creating food items for the homeless, providing and making blankets for the local animal shelter. We're not just having our residents do puzzles and call that a day. So it's super important that everything that we do is revolving around that giving life philosophy. In addition to career opportunities, we also love just having students in our communities in general and in our hospice. We have multiple nursing schools that come in and complete their clinicals. And then for those of you in majors that require volunteer hours, we love having our residents engage with our volunteers. So that's definitely something that can be accomplished within our setting. And not just in our communities, but also in our hospice. So if you're looking at something and you're intrigued by end of life or what that looks like, volunteer hours can be completed with our hospice division. I'm not sure where I'm at with time. I didn't look. I apologize. Am I doing okay, Paulo?
Yeah, I think 3-4 minutes.
Awesome. So I just kind of want to share my personal story with Silverado. I've been with Silverado for a little over 10 years. It was 10 years in July, so about 10 and a half. I actually fell into caregiving. I was in school, kind of couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. I took horseback riding and gymnastics for a while because I couldn't land on what I wanted to do. And I had lived with my grandparents when I was in high school. And I ended up getting a job as a caregiver for this elderly couple around the corner from my house, just, for some extra cash. and I fell in love with it. And it was a complete and total accident. It was a job of convenience that turned into a career of passion. Through that, I applied with Silverado as a caregiver, and I worked as a caregiver with them. Transitioned into their hospice as a admissions coordinator with their Silverado hospice. And then when I obtained my nursing license, I transitioned into a nurse. And 10 years later, I'm now a regional with Silverado. And I never would have imagined, when I started working with my sweet little lady, 13 years ago, that I would be here today. And so I just want to mirror what Dr. Miller's, get out there. Don't be hesitant. Something that may seem inconsequential can make a big impact on your life and your future. So really excited to have an opportunity to talk with you guys. And, I hope to see some of you as volunteers, as employees throughout any of our communities or hospice locations.
Great, thank you. Stephanie, I put the Silverado job opportunities on the chat. Is that the right one for students to?
I'm going to click on it real quick, but I think that is the one.
Okay.
Yep, that's the one. And so depending on the career that you're interested in, you would click on that link. If there's any questions or confusion about it, there is a need help button on the right side, and it will connect you to somebody that can give you the information that you're looking for if you're not able to locate it on the website.
Great. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for sharing about Silverado.
Thank you.
Awesome. So this part is going to be for our transfer center. We have Helen Ward. I'm gonna pass it over to Helen.
Hello, good evening. I've been learning quite a bit and learning even more and more about your major and a bit about you. And yeah, wonderful guest speakers this evening. My name is Helen Ward. I am the transfer center specialist at Coastline College. And I'm just going to go over very quickly about the transfer processes here for all of you who may be thinking about, because of your career and what you would like to excel in your major. It may require a bachelor's degree. It may require a master's degree. Earlier, Claudia mentioned about social work. Social workers do have a master's degree, an MS degree. So as you can see, individuals with sociology degrees have access. I'm so glad that Claudia brought up criminal justice, because we also look at corrections officers, et cetera. So there's a whole host, and as everybody's been saying, Paulo on out, is that it's not a straight line. You will be navigating through this and eventually find your niche and your gift and what you will be able to do and provide that help and support in society and toward each other, okay? Okay, the first step, though, when you're talking about transfer, when you come into my neck of the woods, I want to make sure that you are transfer ready. So what does that mean? As Claudia mentioned earlier, you need to check your ed plan, and that's your SEP, your student education plan. Is your ed plan set up for transfer? Does your ed plan right now say that you're into the certificate program or into the professional AA program? Okay, so where you can find that out is if you log in, and then how many of you, a lot of you have been going to your degree works, looking at your student ed plan. You might need to get that updated, but this is where you're going to find what your GE pattern is. It's very important that you do so. Why? I have students coming to me that has this GE no option selected. What are we supposed to do? Right? So yes, please go see your counselor, check it out yourself to make sure if you are on the path to transfer, that it's going to be either on the general ed CSU, as you met the professor from CSU Fullerton, or you might be on the UC IGETC plan. You don't need to remember all of that right now, but I just want to make sure that you do, as Claudia mentioned earlier, that you are checking your ed plan to make sure that you're taking the courses that you need for transfer. Okay. I've heard a lot about lifelong learning, and that's fantastic. That's fantastic. But what you want to do is to really embark on that step-by-step moving forward so that you do transfer and you do get moving on with your career. I get a good kick out of this, and you kind of see a little bit of my little bit of my personality here. But if all of you have the elixir for longevity, share it. You'll be a billionaire immediately. Jeff Bezos wants to talk to you, because I don't know. We need to get going now to get you going on your career. So again, look at your GE pattern. If you don't know what that is, as Claudia mentioned earlier, Google Coastline Counseling Department, contact Claudia, make an appointment with a counselor to go over that with you, okay? And as we are here, as Claudia mentioned earlier, that these are the majors for transfer from Coastline, from sociology, human services to gerontology. Okay, so where do our students transfer to? I want to give you a list that, yes, Coastline students transfer to these schools. We mentioned Cal State Fullerton. Absolutely. They are our local service area campus. That means that all Orange County community colleges are their priority. You are automatically their priority. They will look at your applications first up. You'll also get priority as far as admissions notices, okay? So they want you to choose Cal State Fullerton. We also send students to Long Beach, vicinity, close by Dominguez Hills, Los Angeles, etc. Also, we send students to the UCs, okay? So you can see the list of UCs and also private universities. And thank you, Claudia, for mentioning South New Hampshire University. That's a great partnership that we have with them, with the fully online programs, BA and BS programs. Okay, so what universities have my major? I might not have time to get into all of this, but we will look into, well, I probably can't get into this, but I'll put these links in the chat box. But you don't need to second guess this. If your goal is to go to the CSUs, guess what? They've got a web page for that. You can type in which major you want. You can also see, if you're looking for just online, you can click online only to see which schools, CSU schools, do offer your major online. As Claudia mentioned earlier, the CSUs are not really going in that direction yet, but you will be able to see what's going on now. Also with the CSUs, there is a transfer pathway guide. Typically, though, they're going to be calling it different majors. So psychology, as Claudia mentioned earlier, is one. There is sociology. Some of you who are our social justice warriors at the UCs, we're looking at it's called well, it'll come back to me, but it's part of the social sciences area. Okay, so it's social ecology. So social ecology is something within the UCs if you're looking for social justice, etc. But once you get into your career and also your patients, your clients, automatically you'll be an advocate for them. Okay. The other is, what classes do I need from Coastline to transfer in my major? This is something that some of you might have seen with your counselors, but I'll put this also in the chat where you need to go to assist.org. I'll be very happy to go step by step. What you will do is choose Coastline College as the place where you're going to earn your major, and then choose a CSU or UC school that you're interested in transferring to. And then you'll see the list of majors. We'll go through that with you, but I want to show you, once you get acclimated or used to this site, you'll be going back to the site to make sure that you, with your student ed plan, is on the right track to transfer. So when can I submit my CS or UC application? So how many of you have about 45 units or more? Again, looking at your student ed plan, if you're at the 45 units, that's a good time to start looking at, either the certificate completion, the AA completion, or for transfer. And this is also where you can sit down with your counselor, come visit me in the transfer center to see about when you need to look at applying. The next step here too is if you're going to the CSUs, know that you have 2 times a year to apply to the CSU schools. Once in the fall, that means that you're going to be finishing up in spring. So all the students right now who are working with me now will be done with Coastline, get ready to graduate in May 2023. They're filling out the application right now as we are speaking for the CSUs to transfer in fall 2023. Okay. The students who are not ready yet, but may be done by next December or by summer of 2023. So summer of 2023 or December of 2023, they have another opportunity to apply to the CSUs in springtime. That's spring 2024. So they'll apply August 1st to the 31st. Now the UCs, if you are UC bound, again, come see me or come make an appointment with a counselor to know the tracks. But usually the UCs are fall to fall. There are exceptions with UC Riverside, UC Merced, and UC Santa Cruz that have winter and or spring quarter admissions. Okay. Okay. So, they also, the professor there mentioned from Cal State Fullerton. I'm a true believer in keeping it real. And then also, once you know what is expected of you, you will rise. So check your degree works and to keep on track. I read many of you saying that in the chat. Also ensure that you're taking the courses that are required for your major. As Claudia mentioned earlier, you can go off-roading, but when you come into transfer, I'm sorry, I'm not into off-roading. I want you to finish and get moving forward to your bachelor's degree and eventually to your MFF, okay? MFT if that's your direction. Also, I have several transfer activities, workshops, and we do the annual, we're going to try to do biannual transfer fairs. And also, as it was said earlier, yes, your professors here at Coastline really are your rich resource here. Meet with them, talk with them before or after school about their career path. You got a sample of that tonight from two different individuals there. So yes, they are your experts. They know your field. They can give you additional, direction here and guidance, and maybe connect you with someone who is in that field. And so I want to thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Paulo and Claudia, for inviting me. Take a screenshot if you like. I really do like this keep calm and transfer on. And feel free to contact me. Okay, I'll be very happy to guide you through the transfer process. Thank you, Paulo.
Session. Hopefully that was really informative information for all of you. I will highly recommend, again, Claudia and myself and Helen could just say, come visit us and come meet with us, but it's really up to you at the end of the day to make this happen, right? So take advantage of your, all the resources that you do have. You don't want to graduate and not utilize this. It's one of those things that you're going to regret. There's a few things I wanted to share with the Career Center before everyone goes. I'm going to share the link to the Career Center on the website. Meet with all of us. We're more than happy to meet with all of you. The links to set an appointment is also there on the chat as well. If you want to meet with a counselor or with a career or transfer specialist, it's all there. Just Google us. You'll be able to find our information. Some things I wanted to share for career services. If you are looking for jobs, I'm here for you to kind of help with that. If you're trying to get experience, make sure you get experience, because there's so many students that graduate with like 3 different degrees but no experience and can't find jobs. It's very common nowadays. You don't want that to be you. I just met with someone earlier. I majored in social and behavioral sciences and cannot find jobs. And that's so, even with the bachelor's degree nowadays is almost not enough with a degree alone. So you want to make sure you supplement that with relevant experience. And there's going to be a lot here. There's a lot of choices you could do. So for example, like if you are trying to get experience, one good way is, especially if you don't have experience yet, there's this really good website called ocnonprofitcentral.org. And this is a great way to get volunteer experience or internships or even like jobs within this. So for example, like look at these different causes. So someone on the chat or someone out loud, which one do you want me to click on by the different causes? Anyone?
Religion and spiritual development.
Okay, so religion and spiritual development, click that. So now it'll give you nonprofits in the area that has somewhat to do with that. And I'm not too familiar, so I'm just going to click one by random. We'll try Acts 1. I don't know what that one is. But this will tell you information. Again, I'm not going to go through this on detail, but it gives you information of what this is about. And typically, if you go to their website, there's going to be like a volunteer tab or like a careers tab where you could look for different opportunities. So start getting those experiences as soon as possible. So let's say, for example, you have 3 years of experience like in your field, plus your sociology, gerontology, or human services. You're going to be way more competitive than someone that just did their degree and maybe they have work that's kind of not related. You want to do something. You want to do something that's related, especially like if there's a certain population that you want to help. A lot of people, what I find in the helping profession is they want to help someone that's similar to themselves. Right. So maybe you've dealt with something in the past and now you want to help others that are dealing with something similar. It's very common. Typically, like it's part of your identity that you want to help with. So okay. So some resources, other resources I want to share with as well. We have really good exploration resources here that you could use. So if you want to do major career exploration, there's some resources here you could click around. One good one, especially for helping profession, is there's this really good website called careersinpsychology.org. I want to put this on the chat as well. This is a really good one, especially for helping professions. Notice how here they have tabs that says counselor, therapist, psychologist, and social worker. There's a lot of overlaps in these careers, and sometimes people don't know the differences between these ones. So this is a really good first step to start identifying the different pathways. So you're like, oh, I want to become a therapist, but it's like, what does that mean? There's so much types of different therapists out there. If you scroll down, it's like, oh, I didn't even know there's a dance/movement therapist, right? Maybe you could be like a dance instructor or something like that. Exercise therapist. There's even physical therapist is probably going to be in this space as well. There's even the musical therapist. I'm not sure what the money for that is, but at least we know it exists, right? So definitely take advantage of these resources. We could definitely explore all the different options here for you, and we'll make sure to give you a plan that will get you there. So in addition to Helen Ward with the transfer, and Claudia with your education plan, we'll make sure we'll get you in a program that's going to get you to your end goal, whatever that is for you. Okay. Some other resources that we do have, resumes and cover letters and interviewing, we could definitely help you out with that as well. If you are looking for a job as fast as possible, my recommendation down here, there's a tab here that says local career fairs. This is a really if you want like a life hack of trying to find a job, and if you just need a job like as fast as possible, go into career fairs is probably gonna be the best thing you could do. So for example, if I open up this Google events page, it tells you different job fairs in the area. So for example, like it looks like there's one tomorrow from 11 to 2 p.m. and it's actually virtual. So you don't even have to drive anywhere. You could save that gas, right? And you have different opportunities here for you. So if you have friends or family members looking for a job and they really can't find something, send them this list. There's a lot of good resources here for you all. And again, we're all here for you. So definitely, I would highly recommend having a one-on-one with each of us. You are going to get different experiences and different resources, and it's all going to be beneficial for you and valuable down the line. I want to thank again everyone for joining this summit. I want to thank Claudia and Helen for sticking all the way through.